All right. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Systems of Wealth podcast. My name is Noah Kronfly. I'm your host. Today, I am joined by another very special guest, someone that I met originally last year through a coaching group with Taylor Welch. And through the time just of us on that, through the coaching group, I got to just feel his energy, his tenacity. And now we've gotten to have conversations together and build an actual friendship. So super excited for that. And it is his very first podcast appearance ever that he just told me. So that's super exciting. It is the powerful Anthony Wilson. Anthony, thank you so much for joining me today, man. I really appreciate it.
Now, I appreciate you for having me, bro. Like I said, this is my first podcast, so always super low key. But I was like, yo, let's see, right?
Dude, I already know that this is going to be a really fun conversation. So yeah, I mean, just from the jump here, I just wanted to say thank you for, the encouragement that you've given me, of us, connecting and getting to chat a little bit more. Your energy and your approach to business and life is something that I very much align with, and that I'm just grateful to, have some learning from you as well. So yeah, man, I really appreciate it. It's been awesome to see your meteoric rise with your business over the last year or so. So yeah, man, just, super, super thankful of just you and who you are.
Appreciate it, bro, man. It's God. I can't lie. Like a lot of things, it's just God. I feel like I truly believe like if you're living in your purpose and you're doing, it just affects everything around you and it affects the people around you.
Yeah, dude, I love it. And that's something that's a sentiment that I've always gotten from you, and just finding that alignment and that purpose. And there's so much peace and harmony in life and confidence in the decisions that you make, whether it's your personal life or your business, when you find that for yourself. So yeah, man, 100%. So the way that I like to start these podcasts is always with a very just kind of simple, basic question. So when somebody asks you what you do, how do you usually answer? What do you usually say is oh, what do you do for work? What do you usually say?
Got you. So I recently just had to change this because of our new
Okay.
offer.
Yeah.
So initially, I used to tell people like, hey, I help people set up Amazon stores and match with suppliers and, be able to grow and scale their Amazon through wholesale, not drop shipping, through wholesaling.
Yes.
But we recently just opened an office over in the Philippines.
Okay.
Just got it fully set up. So now we
Yes.
basically teach people how to do e-commerce on Amazon, FBA. And then we also staff them, my apologies. We also staff them with a VA staff them with a VA who also gives them, they know exactly what to do. They have an understanding, and
Right.
so not only are they learning how to do it, they have a VA now that knows how to do it, a store manager, and they're able to
Right.
scale effectively. So if they're a school teacher or anything and they don't have the hours, their VA has hours.
Yeah. So it's really legitimately helping them be a real business owner, becoming a
Ex-
business owner. That's a big thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a big thing that I want to touch on with you today. Cause the last time that we had a conversation, that was something that came up. There was something a quote that you said to me that is still ringing in my head. And then I put right on my whiteboard after we talked, and I've just been looking at it for a couple of weeks. But we'll get into that a little bit later in this episode. But okay, that's really because I always I'm curious of asking that question, because
Yeah.
I have struggled with it sometimes. It's just I don't always know how to frame it. It's it usually depends on the audience, right? Who's asking me. If you have some
Yeah.
business or marketing chops, usually I can have that conversation a little bit more. But sometimes I really just feel like I'm just me, I'm just doing what I feel
Yeah.
like is my superpower. I'm curious about marketing and business, and I have pursued learning, and the vehicles and the clients that I have are my playground and my environment to implement what I'm learning, essentially. It's sometimes it's strange to frame exactly what I do. As an entrepreneur, it's just we're creating our environment on day to day. It's so interesting.
No, for sure. As like if we went through the whole list, it'd be like,
Yeah,
okay,
right.
but if they ask what's the main thing, I tend to just
Yeah,
stop there. If
exactly.
I'm around certain people, I may tell them like, hey, I have a floor and decor store out here.
Right.
I'm in another group, I'll be like, hey, I'm a real estate developer. So
Yeah, right.
it really just depends on the thing. But most of the time, I tell people like, hey, this is the main thing I do. These are other
Yes.
projects. By the way, before you guys say, well, that's a lot of stuff. I have a team. I have a whole team.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's me. It's like 10 of us. So all the stuff I do, there are people aligned for
Yes.
different things. So it doesn't all pull from me.
100%. Yeah, dude, that's another big thing that I want to talk to you about today. So, but for you, because, a big part of my sort of thesis around this podcast, and I always frame this, I want to make sure I say this right. So, when I was getting started with doing these types of interviews, I was looking at sort of the network of the people that I had around me. And my idea behind it was we see the effect of, either years and years of, you know, um, taking risks and making hard decisions and like building
Yeah,
skills and building a network and going after it. But like a lot of us don't understand like the cause or like that, that time that, let's say like decade or more of like putting in that work doesn't get talked about a lot because it's not sexy and it's not super like, look at us winning, sort of thing. But like, I want to explore sort of your background, your origin, kind of like how you got to where you are now, because your story is really inspiring and it's an incredible story. And so I want to go back a little bit and just kind of understand where your entrepreneurial spirit comes from and just sort of your journey that you went through of like, take me back a bit to just like, growing up a bit and like, your first job, your first business, and just sort of the journey and path of like how you found yourself to where you are now. Like, let's just go back a little
sure.
bit and go through it.
For sure. So I'm originally from St. Petersburg, Florida.
Yep.
Starting out there, not the part that people vacation to.
Yeah.
Or politicians don't come unless it's election year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I've seen a lot of things growing up. Don't come from the best neighborhood. Was actually going down a very dark road until I moved to Georgia.
Okay.
But in terms of my entrepreneurship side of that, because even back then, like when I was 12, I had a lawn care business. When I was 8,
All
I was
right. Yeah.
Pokemon cards.
Would you call that like, yeah, like the first business?
Yeah, like no, the
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon cards is the first
Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon cards.
business.
Yeah,
I
dude. I
like
love
get
it.
like the packs from the store, and
Right.
I would go to school and sell them. I remember like
Man.
it was just like I remember this. It was an Ultimate Tyranno card, and I sold it to this girl for $20. It was so rare, and then in like the next Yu-Gi-Oh! Release, it was like unlimited.
Oh man.
So it was like it was crazy. But
Yes.
yeah, I started entrepreneur
Awesome.
very young. My uncle has a construction business. My other
Okay.
uncle, he's a doctor. He did a lot of different things. Even my dad, we don't talk much, but my dad was also an entrepreneur from the age of like 16. And me and my brother actually talk about this a lot. I just truly believe some people are born with the spirit of entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can learn entrepreneurship, and some people are born with entrepreneurship. And I feel
Yep.
like it's like I'm big into God, so I reference God a lot. So I feel like some people are just anointed in
Mm.
entrepreneurship in a sense. And so it reveals itself very young, like,
Yeah.
from a young age of like what's going to go on. And then as I just went, like I said, when I was 8, selling Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon, time I'm 12, I was literally selling, not selling, but I had a lawn care business cutting yards. I worked one day. And after
Oh,
one day, I legit told all my friends like, hey, go do these yards, go do this, and then I'll come.
building
And
a
then I
team
go
right
do my
away.
yards.
Yeah.
Right. Real thing, like I'm at home playing Madden and like
Oh, that's
Spider-Man.
so good.
They're out working. And then at the
Dude.
end of the day, I would just go around to the house and collect the money and say, hey, meet me in my
Yeah,
garage.
man.
Okay, all of you got this.
Dude, I
So
love it.
yeah, it was crazy. When I got like 14, 15, we didn't have a lot of money. So I started flipping electronics. I also like iPhones, PlayStations, Xboxes, whatever.
Yeah.
That's how I learned how to work on computers. I started building websites for people. So it was just like really just like a super progressive journey. By the
Right.
time from that time, like 18, I was flipping electronics. When I got older, I remember I was on set because Doritos used to have a thing called this is like an ecom. Doritos used to have a thing called like Crash the Super Bowl. Crash Super Bowl was something
Okay.
with Doritos, and
Yeah.
basically you could submit fan created Super Bowl commercials, and every year they would pick one, and the winner would get like $1 million
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and all that.
Right. Right.
So I was on set, and it was my homeboy Chris, and Chris was like, I just met him. We're super cool now, but I had just met him at the time. He's a photographer here named Christopher Rice. If you need, listen, no
Shout
free
out.
phone. Like, you're in Atlanta, Christopher Rice. That's my boy. But you know what I mean? But yeah, so he was showing, he's like, yo, I'm doing this Amazon and I'm getting these square card readers and I'm selling them and
Mm.
they're just selling like crazy. So I didn't have a lot of money this time. So I was like, okay, cool. So I went on Square. I made 20 accounts that night, like 20
Mhm.
Square card reader accounts that was free to deliver. I got them all shipped to me. And every night I would order 20 because you could order every single night. Like now
Wow, dude.
you could order every single night, and they sold on Amazon for like $8 or $9. So like I just went through and every
Man.
night I'm ordering 20 accounts, 20 accounts.
Yeah.
I made 20 emails as well. So I had 40 accounts a night. My sister I had 60 accounts a night. I'm going and I was just really selling scorecard readers like crazy. And then it's kind of crazy because this is my story kind of took a turn. Right after all that happened, everything's going well, and I felt like God had to humble me
Yeah.
because I was too egotistical and pride. And after that, I got homeless. Like I was doing so well, everything's going good, and it was like my homeless journey hit, and then it was like a lot of crazy things which we can go into. But a lot of crazy things hit, and it was just God humbling me. Like he was like, I know the plan I have for you. I know what I put in you. I know where I want you to go. but I can't take this version of you to where you're going. Like if the Anthony that before I went homeless was in a position that I'm in now, it'd be a entirely different reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I just think like the journey of, being well, one, like, your your entrepreneurial spirit, like you said, is for sure, that's like that was just born into you. That's so awesome. But then, yeah, I mean, like, the rise of going from, essentially being homeless to now, where you're at now is just, yeah, I mean, I'd love to explore that with you if you don't mind. Like, let's go into it a bit. Let's talk
Yeah.
about it.
So for me, can't remember the exact year, I'm not gonna lie, but um it was I had literally just made $10,000 and everything was going great. My rent was paid up. I was like, oh, this is gonna be great.
Yeah.
And I don't know how this happened. Mind you, I didn't know laws, I didn't know a lot back then about stuff. I just had a very good skill. A lot of entrepreneurs have a very good skill, but they don't have a very good business.
Right.
So, I paid on my rent, I paid my landlord, but I didn't have like no receipts of paying him. But I had a confirmation from him saying, hey, your rent's paid up 2 months, I got everything. So cool. Well, out of nowhere, we get like subpoenaed. We get subpoenaed
Oh
for
no.
like court. Like, oh, you guys got to go to court, and it's like he's like they haven't paid rent in 3 months, and I'm like, bro, like I have a text message from you right here saying that you did it, but apparently the judge didn't go for it. So I take all my money, all the money I had made, and go and pay back rent, pay back all the stuff, and all damages and fees they try to add on, and I had nothing left. And then at that point, like I'm not working a job because this is my job, but it's like everything I have is now sent in there. And when you look at it, you're like, oh, that's so bad, that's so whatever. But it was God. It was literally God. Like sometimes in order to elevate, God has to humble you because the version of you to where you're going is not it's not going to work because God's plan for our lives is to keep what he gives you. And in order to keep, you have to learn how to keep it. You know what I mean? It's just like when you first start out and get a credit card, you may go out and go crazy. Yeah. But once you learn financial responsibility, you start realizing that, oh, I got a credit card, but that doesn't mean I should spend it, or that doesn't mean I should do this stuff with it. Right. So for me, when I was going through my journey and like going through my process and, just like dealing, dealing with like, oh, my money's going, I got to figure this out, starting over. And then it was like, the truck I had, it was an Expedition. The engine locked up. Like it was a slow oil leak, but like we kept on oiling it, but engine locked up. So now I don't have this, and then I have a Chevy Equinox out there, and I forgot what happened to the Equinox, and now the Equinox is having problems. So it's like life is just like life is life, and man, life is life, and so it's like this hits, then this hits, then this, and it was just like, yo, this is crazy. Right. So we went back to we were like, okay, what we're gonna do, figure this out. We went back to like Florida to try to regroup, stay with my grandparents for a little bit, and also help them out because they were dealing with certain stuff. Help them out, and it started off good, but I don't bash people, so I'm gonna just say it didn't go as well with my other family members and the way that they are and the way they go about things. Like how like people, like, how do I say this nicely? How people have limitations on like how they want to treat you and like how they view you. And I felt at that time, because it was like I was kind of the golden child growing up, like, yo, he's smart, he's a genius, he's gonna figure this out, whatever. And my mom was also that same person of her generation. So it was like, Tisha's a smart one, and then I'm the next one. It's like, oh, he's a smart one. So it's like when both of you are failing, they're like, great, this is fantastic.
Oh man.
I'm just
they want to see you. Yeah. People don't want to see you do as good as like you want. Yeah. Nobody ever wants to see you win, essentially.
Exactly. So like certain come out, they'll say stuff. They're like, oh, I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna get that. Geez. You can't afford this stuff, but they're bragging about it around you. So it's just yeah. So it's just like that. So we came back. We came back to Georgia, and there's actually a story in that too, because I don't know if people are familiar with the children of Israel when they left Egypt. Mm-hmm. But when they left Egypt, that trip should have only taken them about 7 days to 2 weeks, I believe. Yeah. And it took 40 years, right? So when we left Georgia, we had just enough money for 10 days to stay in an extended stay before we went back to Florida. Okay. Florida. When we left and went to Florida, it was terrible, one of the worst experiences. And when we came back, we had 10 days in an extended stay. Right. You feel me? And I kind of took that as God saying, and I was like, God's like, I never told you to leave. You're coming back to what you love to. Like, there's you know what I mean? Like, it's like a very good thing that it happened, because it just goes to show. So it's like, you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to go. And during this whole time, it's just like, yo, God, like, if you gave me all this, why are you doing this? But it's like, right. I can see now what he was doing, but I couldn't see it then. Yeah, so of course. Like, what's going on? Like, just to skip ahead a little bit, but I'm gonna come back to this. Yeah. the mental toughness I got then
Right.
tremendously exceeds me in business
That's what
now.
I am in, like, that's what I'm acknowledging now. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you can look back on it with, like, the way you're telling the story now is like not humorous, but you can kind of just be like, gosh, like what I was going through is just like, how is this continue keep happening? But I'm sure what you were experiencing at the time was just like you like were probably like, geez, like you're just down and struggling. And like that's not, yeah, I mean, that's really gonna test your resolve and resiliency and your ability to just continue to show up and continue to show up every day.
Facts. And number two, it also shows like how much do you trust me, and from God's eyes, how much do you
Yeah,
trust me?
wow.
You feel me? Like how much do
Right.
you trust me? Like you're going through a situation, but how much you trust? And it was like I never was suicidal, but I remember I told God at one point, I was honest. I was like, God, if this is all you have for me, take me
Yeah.
now. Like
Right.
I'm not suicidal, but if this is
Jeez.
it, if this is my life, if this is what's going on, take me now. Like there's no
Right.
point in like what's the point of being here? You feel me? So what
Mm.
like I said, was going through this trial and all this stuff, and it's just dealing, it's like going through the motions. Not too much is happening during this period of time, like nothing. I'm not stable enough to even start one businesses, so we're just doing just enough to pay by. And praise God to all the people that He sent, people who like may have paid for us to get a room and other things. So it's like I
Yeah.
appreciate tremendously like those people. You guys all host very special places. But then as we're going through the journey, I remember, and I recommend nobody ever prays this prayer. I said, God, I've heard everybody else's testimonial, but I need my own. And I feel like that's like praying for patience, because God's like, great, you want patience? Stand in line. So it's like He's giving me my own. He's giving my own things. Like you got a testimony. Well, testimonials come with a lot of
Yeah, right.
things that come with it. But if you want it, it'll go. So it's like as I'm going through this journey, I'm like, yo, like what's going on? Like why is this happening? And then I give you another example. During this time, I got contracted by the government, FEMA. Like 3 years into my journey, I got contracted by the government for
Oh,
FEMA.
wow. Okay.
2 years in my journey, FEMA came in and they flew me out to Dallas. I had a clearance with the Department of Homeland Security. I was like,
Wow.
I've done over 300 home inspections for the government and claims, and I was making like 2,500 a week. So I'm like,
Nice.
oh,
Yeah.
this is great. I'm finna, my life's gonna turn
I get some
around.
money, right?
Great, you know what I mean? Like I'm going from 0 to 2,500. Actually, I got a job tree logging before that. If you ever tree log, bless you.
No.
You haven't tree logged, you know what I mean? Like you haven't tree logged, never do it. But I had a job tree logging, and my boss would sometimes pay and sometimes didn't. He'd be like, "Oh, it's short," but I'm like, I'm the youngest one, and in
Yeah.
tree logging, they're like, "Oh, you're the youngest. Oh, you still got back. So lift this heavy stuff." You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right, right, of course.
So it's like, but I went from like zero to 2,500 working for the government. I'm like, it's great, but I still have the same habits. So I'm still spending stupid
Ah.
money. I'm buying dumb stuff, and God is like, I elevated you higher than I did last time.
Mm.
Still went
Yeah,
and
you
did
haven't
that.
learned the lessons yet. Yep.
Exactly. So now I got to go back and I'm staying on my auntie for a while. And when I'm staying on my auntie, that's when I got a job at Walmart. I started just getting better understanding. I started like really kind of not fully comprehending what's going on, but starting to click like, okay, maybe this is happening because of this. Maybe it was going on. And to
Mm.
summarize it up, at the end of my journey, while there's a lot of lessons in there, the biggest thing is for me, I was my class speaker. I was always like the leader. I was always this person. So I always had this thing about myself, like you can't fail. Like failure is
Mm.
not who you are.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
at the end of my journey, I just learned like my journey turned around when I finally took a step back and said, you know what? I failed. I failed for 5 years. Like while I'm learning, I'm doing everything, I failed. I didn't
Wow.
do what I was supposed to do. And when I was able to do that, and I remember I was sitting on my auntie porch and I literally pushed back from a table and I was like, this is what's going on. This is my life. This is what I'm dealing with. This is blah, blah, blah. I don't like this. I don't like that. I don't like whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like literally just going through like listing everything. This is like a 10-minute rant. Like imagine somebody talking in a room by themselves for 10 minutes, just out. This is what's going on. And I remember at the end of everything, I was like, and I'm okay. And I don't know
Yeah.
what happened in that moment, but when I said
Wow.
I'm okay, it was like all the pressure and stress I had dealt with for 5 years was just off of me.
Wow.
Like you failed and you did all this stuff, but you're okay. And it was like
Right.
once the pressure was off, I was able to focus. Literally
Yeah.
within I kid you not, within 6 months of having that conversation, I was literally back on my feet.
Wow, dude.
Like from
Wow.
zero. Like, literally 6 months span.
Jeez.
Yeah.
There's two really big things there that I want to highlight a little bit is like one, because I can very much empathize, and I had a similar thing with like the failure thing. Like I remember I like when I was first getting started, and inevitably, whenever you're getting started in business, like your first couple businesses or the first one you start, it's gonna fail. Like it's gonna happen. But like
Entrepreneurs are the biggest failures in the world.
that's it, man. Like you gotta embrace it, and you gotta reframe failure a little bit and just see it as like, you're learning and you're getting started. But like I had the same sort of deal of like, I don't want to fail. And then like I have failed so many times in businesses that like I can't even count it anymore. You know what I mean? Like I used to be like, I failed with this business and this business, and I'd count it on one hand. And now it's happened so many times that like I don't even know how many to count anymore. So that's one. I really like your perspective on that. And then the other one of so the other thing that I took from that and that I can empathize and relate with is your frame of reference for life now of like coming from homelessness to where you came back from and sort of like, okay, and I'm still here. I went through all that and I'm still here and I'm okay. Like that frame of reference gives you an ability to now accept the challenges that life is going to throw at you and the responsibilities and like the pressure sometimes. So like my frame of reference that I like am not thankful for or grateful for, but something that I experienced growing up as a young kid. So I lost my mom at a really young age, right? Like I was 4 and she passed. It was just random. She
I
was
can
gone.
know.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's yeah, I mean, it's still something that affects, me to the day, of course. But what's interesting about it is like my frame of reference now for life is like, well, one, I have my dad to look at and be like, I used to ask him all the time, like, how'd you do it? Like, how did you figure that out? Like you had me, you had my brother. Like, I just don't understand how you managed that. And he's just like, I didn't give myself a choice. Like I showed up and I continued to do it. Like I just didn't give myself a choice. And so now when I am met with things in my business or like personal issues or just something that like arises that I am like I start to doubt myself or I get scared or whatever that is, whatever that feeling is, my frame of reference that I go back to is like, well, my dad lost his wife and figured out a way to like keep me and my brother and like our family together, and we're still here. Like we made it through. We're here now. So like that frame of reference to now sort of compare things against is like, I don't know. My feeling towards it is like, if my dad could figure that out, like I think I can figure some of the stuff out that like I'm dealing with on a normal basis. You know what I mean? It's the same for you, right? Like if you have that frame of reference of like, I went to most people's probably like worst outcome is like you end up homeless and now you're back to
Yeah.
it. Is like, man, you can't really get defeated by a lot of stuff. You know what I mean?
Right. That's a fact. Literally, man, like honestly, for me, I'll be honest with you, like whenever somebody says anything, I literally always say, like, for me, in business, it helps me so much because like I feel like
Yes.
the only thing that's worse is death. Like
Yes. Yes.
so
You're 100% right.
like, yeah, like the only thing that's worse is literally death. So if
And
I
it's going to
don't
happen anyways. Like that's
exactly,
so many people like have the fear. Like that's if you get to the root, if you strip away everything and you get to the root, that's what drives a lot of people's fear is like ultimately a fear of death. And
yeah,
that's going to happen regardless. And I mean, it's Hormozy's thing, right? Like 6 months
yeah,
after you die, everybody's going to forget. So like might as well do the things that you want to do anyways, because people are going to forget about you in the first place. So like, it's kind of like, it's, a little dark, but it's also a bit freeing when you accept it. You're like,
yeah, like
no, he's right. Like he's essentially right.
yeah, it's like yo, like I made it through all this stuff right here. I've been
Yes.
homeless. I know what it goes. Like think about it. Most of the successful people you meet, not all of them, but most of the ones I looked up to, they were
Yeah.
homeless. So I remember one point in my journey, I was literally like, "This is just my such and such story. This is my, you know what I mean?" So it's like now
Dude.
that I'm in here, it's like I tell people they're like, "Yo, you have a high risk tolerance. You can,
Yeah.
bro. I've been homeless. Like I've literally picked pennies up off, I've literally picked pennies up
Yes.
off of the ground. Like
Right. Straight up, dude.
now,
See,
mind
like,
you, I have a higher risk tolerance. I'm more calculated now. I'm very
yes.
calculated. I don't make dumb risk
Right.
choices. I don't do dumb stuff.
Right. Right.
But
Right. Right.
at the same time, I have, bro, the next step is death. And I'm like, you
That's it.
know,
Yeah. Dude, I'm
and I'm like,
100% with you on that.
yeah, and like I want to highlight something else. Like for me, the model I live my life by is literally what's on this shirt right now, which is confidence. I
Mm.
feel like confidence depends on your gifts, talents, and abilities, but
Yes.
confidence depends on the plans God has for your life. Because at the end of the day, we fail
Mm.
ourselves. No matter how much you try to say I'm the number one, you fail yourself at some point. But as long as I know that God's plan is bigger and God's plan is perfect, I can rely on that. I may not see it, I may not have a full understanding of everything that's
Yeah.
going on, but
Right.
I know God's plan is perfect. So as long as I keep going, He's either going to move me back in position or He's going to keep pushing me ahead in the direction I'm going.
Dude, man, like Anybody listening, write that one down. Like, that's it. This is why, like, our conversations, like, you say these things, and I'm just like, dude, like, where's a pencil? I need to write this stuff down. Thankfully, I have this one recorded so I can go back and listen to it.
Facts.
Man, I love it, dude. Like, again, this is like it goes back to what I was saying at the top of the podcast, is like so much of my thesis around this is like people see, you playing at this level and they're like, wow, like, you're doing this cool things. It's just like, you got to understand the journey and like the cause that led to this effect of like where you are now, and like the mindset that you have, the way that you operate in your business, the decisions and the ability that you're able to take, the confidence and courage that you have in making some of these decisions. Like, yeah, people want that, but
Yeah,
they don't want to go through being homeless. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But like being homeless leads to like the feeling that you are now. So it's like,
You
it's just
want
an interesting way to see it.
I always tell my friends this because like even my friends, I'm pretty sure people watching, as you know, you get successful, people around you are like, oh my God, you're so great, everything's fine.
Yeah, right.
But bro, I'm 27, right?
Yeah.
You're looking at 3 years of my life and thinking it's all 27. Like
Yes.
this is 3 years.
Yes.
This is literally just 3 years. There's 24 years of my life where it was fail, 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 fail.
Man.
And you see these 3 years and you automatically assume that, yo, this man has always been like this. I have always been this person.
Right.
But I was not always in this position. So if you count the whole 27 years, like if we factor this out, what's that? I'm like like 1/9 of my life
Right.
has been this good. And the other 8/9 have literally just been like,
yes, right. Well, I like that you said like the full 27 years, because like I think, some people talk about like their failures just from like, or like their career started like, when they started working, right? Like I've
yeah,
been working since I was like 19 or 20, but like I've been evolving and becoming who I am and now how I am in business for, yeah, I mean, I turned 26 next week, right? So like
yeah.
it's been 25 years of just like failing my way and like dealing with a lot of like, from losing a parent to like, my baseball career not going the way that I wanted to like the first business that I started getting cut out by a business partner. Like it's all those things that now accumulate to like forming a good character of who we are. But like the real big lesson of it is like, regardless of all those things, like we still show up, and it's our mindset and how we view those things and reframe them to make it like powerful for us, of like not pointing at all these things and being like, because what a lot of people do is like, they just like, again, this is another thing that my dad used to tell me a lot, is like, just don't be a victim. You like can't be a victim to like the circumstances. Like we could have just been like, man, like this is, life's so hard. Like we lost our parent, like I lost my mom, and like, there's just nothing we can do about it. It's just like, but I'm not going to be a victim about it. Like I'm going to turn that mess into like what my masterpiece is now, and wear that. And like people meet you and like your energy. And even same thing with me. It's like, we love this stuff, but like people would never guess that like that's kind of the situation that like we come from. Right. So like, it's just, again, it's just a real interesting way to view it all.
Absolutely. It's like everybody looks at you and they automatically assume like, yo, it's just always been, bro, it hasn't.
Right.
People's hard. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon. I didn't grow up with people around me to go. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I never saw a successful Black man who didn't sell drugs until I was literally in Georgia. And I joined the 100 Black Men of America. When I got here, I remember I can't remember his name. It sucks, but I can't remember his name. But I remember like I was kept going and I'm looking and I'm going. And I was like, one day I remember I asked him, I was like, have you ever sold drugs? Like I was blunt. I was like, have you ever sold drugs? And he was like, no, I went to college. I did this. I did that.
Right, yeah.
And I was like you've never, like, you know what I'm saying? Mind you, I will talk some more, but this is where I come from. Like, yo, you've never been on the block. You've never been out late nights. Like you ain't never touched no dope, no nothing. He was like, no. And what that did for me, and I feel like entrepreneurs do for our friends and stuff, is for me, that was like, yo, maybe there is another way. Because where I come from, we only got 3 options: ball, medical, or jail or dead. You know what I mean?
Dude, yeah.
So it's like ball is like 1 in a million, while like my cousin's in the NFL now.
Really? Wow.
Somebody else, Jordan Scott, that's my cousin.
Shout out, yeah.
I think second cousin. He's in the NFL.
Yeah.
We have other family members who are supposed to go to the NFL, and some supposed to go to basketball.
Of course.
The other ones either going to medical, and then like half of my childhood friends are either dead or in jail.
Damn, man.
More than half. So it's like you see now and you see the journey, and people think everything's been great, but it's like it really hasn't. I just kept growing. And one of the things in Iron Forums is a Christian men's forum, and we have meetings every third week. They would say you're the king of quotes, but I always tell them this. I'm like, yo, one of the most important, things that people don't do that hold them back for years is they don't accept. And what I mean by that is this. When I said I'm okay, I accepted that this is what happened. This is where life got to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is where I am. I didn't accept that it was going to keep happening. I just accepted that it did happen. I accepted the past, but I didn't accept the future it was presenting to me. And I think that's the key thing. So people, life happens, their family does this, their friends do this, their mom did that, these people didn't believe in me, these people didn't support me, and they stayed there.
Mm-hmm.
When you can accept that this is what happened to me, this is what's going on, I'm not going to let it happen again. Already happened. When you can accept, you can move past it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like most of the time when a family member passed away, you know, like I lost my grandfather earlier last year. Me and my grandfather were super close.
Yeah.
And my friend's like, you know, I feel so bad. I said, I'm not sad that my grandfather is gone. I'm sad I'll never get to see him again. And what I meant by that is my grandfather was suffering. So I don't want him to stay here and suffer just because I want him here with me. But I am sad that I won't get to see him again. So for me, I accept that he's gone. I just wish he wasn't.
Right.
You feel me? Versus, I can't believe he's gone. And when I was able, it helped the grieving process speed up a lot for me.
Wow.
And so now the things I do is like, yo, let me honor my grandfather. I can do this because I accept it. But a lot of people in life, an average person who goes through their day-to-day, whether it's a 9 to 5, whether they're just making ends meet, whatever, they can't accept what's going on in their life. And if you can't accept something, you can't move past it. You know I mean? If you don't accept, like if you gamble, I don't gamble, but if you gamble and you go to Las Vegas, you have to accept the dealer to deal you cards before you can ever get a chance to win, right? So you have to accept that, okay, I'm going to accept that I'm going to start playing this game, and then I can start playing, and I may win some, I may lose some, but if I lose, I got to accept that I lost and keep going, or I say, you know what, I accept I lost and I'm done. But it all comes to acceptance, but people don't do that. No, these people never believe me and I'll never get over it. Well, now you're stuck there. You're stuck in 2015 and 2023. You're stuck in 1 year of your life for the next 8 years.
Yes.
And that's why most people stay there. And then they get, 30, they get to their 60s and 70s and they're like, oh man, even their 50s, they're like, man, I could have did so much more. Right. You stuck there because you couldn't accept what was going on then to move past it. Yeah.
It's just taking massive responsibility, accountability. It's my fault, essentially. Like it goes back to what my dad would always say about being a victim. It's just, again, it's just like, it's on me to do something about this. So, man, seriously, like I really appreciate you being, vulnerable and talking about it, because this is, I think is very important and valuable for people to hear. It's just raw and it's real. And like, this is the stuff that, this is just real life. So that's the personal stuff. That's the background. Let's get into some of the, let's talk about business. Let's
lighten the mood, guys.
So like I said at the top, again, one of the quotes that every time you and I talk, like there's just, you rattle something real quick. And I'm just like, dude, that was succinct. That was it. And we were talking last time we had our conversation, and we were talking about sort of like what I was framing to you, and sort of what I've experienced, in the past in my own business is like, I have hit a cap in my time, right? Like running the consulting business and me being sort of the solopreneur kind of like structure that I'm in, right? Like there's a cap to the variable or the resource that I'm leveraging, which is my time and my labor, right? There's a cap to it. I can only do essentially so much. And there was something that you said to me that, again, it's just rang true in my head and it's just stuck with me. And I almost I just got to get it somewhere. Like I just had to have it down. So you said 100K a year is all about you and the, who you are and your skills, and you like building yourself up. And 100K a month is all about the environment that you built around you and the people that you bring now onto your team. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I feel like I've over the last year or so, I've understood it a little bit more. And I'm, if like going back to just like the basic, Robert Kiyosaki cash flow quadrant of like employee, self-employed, to business owner to investor, like I'm very much in that kind of growth of like, because I went from the employee to like breaking into self-employment and like being a business owner, or almost like basically like being like when I was first getting started. And I encourage a lot of people to start this, is like when you're first getting into entrepreneurship, at least the path that I took was like building other people's businesses, essentially, which is like a lot of what I still do, right? Like being a consultant, like I'm helping other people build their business, but breaking into sort of like now owning a system, owning a process, and productizing a service, and building people around me to, carry out a certain objective. And I am owning people, process, strategies, and systems. That is very new for me. And you said it as well. Like, you have your hands in a lot of things. And I even said it. I was like, how do you do all this stuff, dude? And you're like, I have a team. And like, I remember a couple of years ago when I moved to Vegas and I was living with one of my buddies, and he was the first guy that I was around that was doing 100K a month. And he said it to me. He's like, I have a team. And like, it clicked for me then. And like, I had the experience of building out a team around me. And then, me and my business partner went separate ways and all that good stuff. I've talked about that a ton of times. So I found myself back into like, being the consultant again. And just thinking about like, what's the vehicle, to build and kind of systematize a process around and sort of start to build a team a bit. But can you just speak to your, process of building out a team around you? I mean, obviously you were doing it at such a young age with your lawn care business. So like, you've been doing it for a long time, but like, just talk to me about like what your structure looks like now and sort of just like how you have grown so much over the last year. Just, when we first got connected, I knew what you were doing, and now, where you're at now, it was just like it blew me away, like the revenue numbers that you guys are hitting. So yeah, talk to me about like your structure and just sort of your mindset around that of like, systematizing a process, owning that and building a team and just like empowering an environment around you and building people around you.
Okay. So I would say everything we do in life, like all the jobs I've worked, I took something from them that I implemented in what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So, like when I worked at Walmart, when I sold cable, when I sold cars, when I sold whatever, I took important aspects of that when I came to build my team now. So the reason I got into this mindset even more so was because of my last company, it's called Scale Foundation. We used to systematize and organize people's companies, put in everything just to scale. And I didn't do it for myself. I did it for others. It's like a mechanic who doesn't work on his own car.
Right.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
right. Yes.
it got in a thing. So I was just like, I was working like 16, 17 hours a day and I was getting burnt out. And that partnership kind of flamed out because of a lot of different things, but part of it was also burnout and whatnot.
Right.
So when I came into my new company, I knew off the rip, I was like, I'm not working 17 hours a day. I'm hard. Listen, shout out to Team No Sleep. I'm Team Get Sleep. I'm Team Get Sleep. You know?
Yeah, so, say it again for the people in the back, man.
Right. I'm team Get Sleep over
people.
Here,
we sleep.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself.
So like for me, what I did is I was like, okay, I got to build a team. So when I first started out, it was me, Ginger, and Aaron. Sorry. I got an album. Hey, sorry. Okay, but yeah, so basically, when I started my my new company, I was like, okay, I gotta go. So it was me, Jenzy, and Aaron,
business partners.
Yeah. Jenzy does operations, Aaron does sales and marketing. When I brought Aaron in, I've known Aaron for like 4 years.
Nice.
I was like, I knew he was very detail oriented.
Yep.
Shout out to people like me. I'm not the most detail oriented person. I'll tell you now. And Jenzy's amazing. Like when I brought Jenzy on, I was more so like, yo, I want to help. I want to help him. I see he's trying to get on his journey. I wish I would have had somebody to help me when I started.
Yeah.
And dude is a killer, like CO. Like,
love it, dude.
They're 2 superstars. God bless me. I got 2 superstars on my team.
Yes.
It's like the foundational core when I first started doing what I'm doing now. And so from that point on, we were doing very well, but we didn't scale with what we were doing. So, like you have a lot of, we outsourced a lot. Like we were just outsourcing this company and that. And outsourcing is great when you're first starting out. It is terrible when you're scaling. Because
is it a similar service, like similar offering of what you guys are doing now? Like similar business model? Yeah.
So back then it was just like the Amazon FBA and stuff like that.
Yep.
And also part drop shipping too. And so, we was outsourcing to other teams to do stuff. And it was a disaster, man. Like certain teams, a store gets suspended, they don't care, like, hey, give us more stores. Like, bro, like these people pay money, like we gotta go. So it was terrible. So then we brought on Brandon as like a customer service rep. Because like it gets draining when it's like you're trying to fix something that's breaking. Like you can scale too fast, and we genuinely did. Yeah. So we scale too fast and it's like stuff is starting to break and it's like customer service complaints are filing up and things are going wrong. So we're like, oh, so we got to figure this out. So we hired Brandon, and Brandon was another godsend, man. Brandon now he's like over all my staff. Like he works right under Jenzy. Brandon's like a second Jenzy. You feel me? So Brandon came in, he started customer service, but then Brandon started like helping us systematize with softwares, and helping streamline the process and doing this and doing that and so Brandon started hiring people. And so I always say, like, if you want to truly scale a company, you build it out in generations. Generation 1 was me, Jenzy, and Aaron. Generation 2 was Brandon, Renzi, and Kyler. Generation 3, so on and so forth as it continue to build. Yes. So now I think I have like 25 to 30 people that are all in.
Dude, yes.
Yeah, like so it's all like each generation, like I very rarely do interviews now. I very rarely, I think the last time I did an interview was because I wanted to, and it was for our social media manager, and that was just because I wanted to get him on there. You feel me? But I don't have to do it. Like they'll be like, oh, hey, we got a new team. Oh, that's what's up. Never met them. You know, you know what I mean? I may need them to the meeting. I'm like, oh, we just hired them last week. Oh, hey, how you doing, man? You know what I mean? So it's like that's the team building aspect of it, right?
Right.
But you go to the empowering aspect to get your team to do that. You have to understand, and this is another lesson I learned from being homeless. You don't have to be the best. And I
Yes.
think so ingrained, I gotta be the best. I gotta be the best. Bro, I don't want to be the best. If you are better than me, great. What is your hourly?
Yeah.
Like how much you know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Like how much can I pay you to like work with
Man,
you
that's
know?
great, dude.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's
Well,
like,
it's
go ahead.
well, it's just so important because it's like I feel like one of the first transitions an entrepreneur needs to go through is like it doesn't need to be me that's going to do everything, right? Like I have
Yeah,
to be the one that's going to do it all, and it can't be you essentially if you're going to continue to grow and scale. But then the
yeah,
other thing that like where people get limited is like it might be an ego thing, but like they want to be the best or smartest person on the team. Like having somebody that is more advanced or better than them, like challenges their ego or whatever it is. I'm not going to speak to it because I don't know what that feels like entirely yet of building out a team. But like what you just said is so valuable. It's like I want A players around me. Like
right.
I want those people to be better than me. And you know, this is something that because I've really I've listened to a lot of Hormozy talking about this because he talks about building a team so
Yeah,
much and so much of like he talks about it, right? He's like the reason why I'm able to do what I do is because I have a badass team around me. He's like if you want A players around you, like you have to be, they want an A leader and you have to be that person. Like you have to, that's what's so interesting about that whole thing is like, again, 0 to 100K is all about you. And then at some point you got to be like, it's not about me anymore. And it's about empowering the team around me and like letting go of that. Like this needs to be all about me. Or even if like it's about the amount of income that I'm making, like when you're just like, I'm building out the process and the team and the strategies, like the money sort of just like, that's the byproduct of you doing all the
yeah.
right things of like putting all the process in place.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like you, a lot of people want to go in, like they focus on the money, and I did too when I first started.
Of
You focus
course.
on
Yeah,
a lot of money,
absolutely.
and that was my mistake. That's why I scaled too fast. I didn't
Yeah.
scale properly. But when you scale, understanding that I know I can make this amount of money, but let me
Mm-hmm.
make sure I'll be able to maintain making this amount
Right.
because it's just like the guy who goes to the gym. You see him in there, he cranks out, 300 on a bench press. He does one rep and he goes. And you're like, yo, that dude's strong. But if you want to be honest, the strongest person in that gym is a dude who's doing 250 and doing 3 sets of 10. You're
Right.
like, that's the strong dude. He
That guy's
probably can cut
strong.
him out. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? That guy just max. But
Yes.
that 250 probably going there. You know what I mean? So it's like you if I know I can do it, why not build out the system to maintain it? Because if you get
Right.
and it breaks, your system will shatter. And
Right.
as you get to certain levels in your business, and it's different for every business, it will shatter. Your foundation will shatter. That's
Mm.
why big companies spend billions, millions, and billions of dollars for what is it? Forecast analysts. They look
Right.
for people who are looking for kinks. They're constantly trying to repair holes in their system because they
Yes.
understand that it's going to break. And part
Right.
of that is not a system. A lot of
Hmm.
people systems and automations is literally just software. No, it is people. So
Hmm.
what I did is I understood
Yeah.
I've had really good managers and I've had really bad managers. So I said I need to make an environment that was Google-esque. People wanted to come in here, they
Hmm.
love us, they love what we're gonna do, they're gonna work hard, and they're gonna genuinely say, I love working for these guys. And I
Yep.
feel like even with my team, if I'm not there and it was a blind test and there was no thing, if you ask them, they will literally say, like, yo, we appreciate them. I'll give you an example. I told my team, I was like, yo, how much do you guys want to make? I definitely make you guys pay more. I have never had anybody ever tell me this. They literally said, we just love the opportunity to work here and being with you guys is a real pleasure. So we don't even want to we don't really care about making more money. We just appreciate
Insane.
the opportunity you already gave us. So it's like, yo, you did a really good job building. So for me, the
Wow.
culture to build, I put a lot into culture of like, yo, we're here. Like, I'm not super corporate. I'm not super like, oh, but like you have to have that in your business. But if that's not your personality, your business is an extension of you. It's like your child.
Yes.
So if you're not super serious, why are you gonna make a business super duper like we got to do this by the book and everything?
Hmm.
It's it doesn't, you know what I'm saying? Like once you know the rules, you can break them. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we gotta hey, you gotta have a certain etiquette, okay, but how close to that etiquette do we have to have? Like
Hmm.
is it finite or can I like bend the rules a little bit? You know what I mean? And so like in my team, that's just how it is. So it's like my team is so empowered, they go. But I'll tell you to from a CEO's perspective, to all the CEOs watching this podcast, I'll tell you this: you have your core team and you decide who that is. My core team is Genzi and Aaron. I feel like if
Hmm.
I have any business, if I take Genzi and Aaron, we're successful.
Right.
You have to get your team to understand the way that you think and process stuff. So when they make decisions, they don't always have to come to you. I remember when we first started, Gen Z, like, hey, I want to run this by you. Hey, I want to run this by you. And I would answer. After a certain point, Gen Z would be like, hey, I want to run this by you. And I'd be like, I'm not answering that. And he'd be like, I just want to make sure I'm not answering that. He'd be like, I just want to know. I'd be like, well, what do you think? He'd be like, well, I'm thinking we should do this right here. Okay, so why are you asking me? You know what I mean? Because I wanted to like, yo, you first off believe in yourself, and two, if you understand the way I think, you'll be like, okay, I see why we should do it this way.
Right.
And then now you make their own decisions. So Jeans and Aaron started hiring out their teams, and then their teams start hiring out their teams.
Yes.
As it goes, and mind you, me and Jeans and Aaron are all business partners. I'm the CEO, Jeans COO, Aaron's the he calls himself CRO, Chief Revenue Officer. Like, you know what I mean? It's like we're all equals,
right?
But I'm technically the leader in this case. You feel me?
Yes.
And so I have to make them believe in their decision makings more, and I have to get them to understand how I think. So when they process decisions, they'll be able to make decisions without coming to me. Because the true goal of a CEO or a business owner is to become a founder. And I always say, when you're a founder, that means your business is going to the point where you're not necessary. And I love a quote Taylor said. Taylor said, when a business is properly staffed, the owner is the biggest liability. But when a business is not properly staffed, the owner is the biggest asset. So in the cases where you don't build your team out understaffed, you are an asset. You absolutely are the go-to guy. You know what to do. But when you are building out this team, you got to let go and understand that, yo, you have to give them the opportunity to fail. Just how you learn through your failures, they're not going to make every decision right. They're not going to do everything right. They're not going to have everything. But if I give them the opportunity to do that, then they'll learn some of the same lessons that I learned. So now they're less dependent on, hey, Anthony, let me ask you something. Or, hey, Noah, let me ask you. They're going to be like, oh, I know what to do now. You empower them. Yeah.
Wow, man. That's really, really powerful. Very powerful. And very like interesting for me to just reflect and learn on it as well. Because again, this is something that I'm still actively learning and just like going through the process. And like, I think for a while I was like, well, you know, I can't do that. I can't do it. And then like, it's just like anything else. It's just like, if I keep telling myself that, like, I'm just not going to embrace it. But like, I'm going to fail hiring people and learning it. But like, it's just, you know, what's interesting about it is like, there's
fire somebody today, bro. Then it's like,
it's just like,
I'm sorry, I didn't fire them though. Somebody else fired them. Fired today.
Somebody got hired. That's great. But like, what's interesting about it is like, there's not a whole lot of else of like other good or bigger problems to solve other than like something like that. You know what I mean? Like, what else? That's the problem. That's the problem to solve.
Yeah, literally, man. Like, my website build out is handled by my by my chief of marketing, Kyler. Kyler goes and like he's taking the head of the project. He asks us for some things. He's coordinating meetings and everything for our PR and stuff. We have Giselle, that's Gen Z's girlfriend. She's our marketing and sales coordinator.
Yeah,
she's handling the PR and making sure that everything is being coordinated. She also handles the majority of interviews. You know what I mean? It's like you have these people to go. And I remember I was talking to Aaron because Aaron is Chinese. In Chinese culture, it is, if you don't do the work, it's not as valuable. So me and Aaron had like a good conversation one night, and I asked him, I said, let me ask you, is it more important, and mind you, both of these are super powerful, is it more important to be the catalyst for growth or to create the environment for growth to happen? When you start out, you're the catalyst because you're part of it. But if you make an environment where growth can happen, it's even better. Because if there's no environment for growth to happen, then there's no need for a catalyst because nothing's going to grow here. It doesn't matter if the soil is bad. I could plant the best plants or whatever. It's not to grow. I could put the best fertilizer. It's not going to grow.
Sheesh.
But if I create an environment where growth can happen, somebody else may be the catalyst. The second generation of my company, the third generation of my company may be the catalyst for this person to grow. But I have to first make that environment.
Jeez, my goodness, man, that's real. That was real right there. Again, like, it's just so good. Let's talk about, so now that, because you have the team and that creates some more leverage with your time and some time freedom in that. I know you're involved in a lot of the other things that you're doing. And one of the things that I'm super curious about is your, you know, real estate development, investing. What's that? How did you get started with that? Where does that come from? Like, why real estate specific as like the vehicle of like, building wealth or just investing or, doing that as like your kind of capital allocation vehicle? Well, like where does that come from for you? And what are you involved in right now?
Yeah, so like when I was growing up, my uncle did construction.
Yeah.
And so he would come pick me up at like 6 in the morning. I would go out and like do construction with him. And I loved it. I had so much fun. I very much like to work with my hands. Like I still do my own oil changes. so like so my uncle did it and I just always had a fascination. So even when I was homeless, if I was ever around the TV, I was watching HGTV, chipping you on the games.
Oh yeah, right.
I was like, man, I want to do this. Do this. You feel me? And it just always fascinated me because I was like, yo, it's so dope to be able to like build something. I'm very artistic too. I just play 6 instruments growing up.
Oh
So
my
like,
goodness. All right.
yeah, it was flute, piano, violin, viola, bass, and cello. So
Dude.
like, yeah,
Sheesh.
so it was like plus I could draw and stuff. So I was very artistic. So I was like, yo,
Yes.
this is super fun.
Right.
And I did all these things. I was like, yo,
Yeah.
this like gets to like this like business and art gets to come together.
Yeah. And see it
I
come
get
to
to
life.
design this house.
Yeah, right.
I get to design this house. Like so I just
That's great.
always genuinely loved it. And so when I
Yeah.
finally had the opportunity to do it, I was like, yo, I'm going head first. I started out doing wholesaling. My first wholesale
Okay.
make 10,000.
Yes.
I got
Nice.
scammed because the dude, it was a lot of things. I do everything under contract. I don't care if they're your best friend, do a contract. But like I didn't do it in a contract. I did it off of good faith. And he was like, oh, I didn't make as much. Now, mind you, just a side note, this deal was a 3-property deal. Each property was sold for $80,000. The ARV on all 3 properties was like $890,000.
Okay.
With appraisal that was up to date, was done within the last 2 months.
Okay.
Rehab on each house was roughly around 60,000 because it was going to be a lot of work. It's
Okay.
about 120. You got the 3 houses at 80 a piece, so that's
Yep.
80. That's 240 plus the 40 on the 80,000, the 6,000 for each rehab, which is 180. So that's 180 plus that 240, 420 all in, but it's RV at 890.
Right.
And he was like, oh, I didn't make that much money, so he only sent me 1,600. He was supposed to send me 2,000, but he's like, oh, I got to take out your taxes, bro. I don't work for you, so what taxes are you taking out?
Yeah. What do you mean?
But like, you feel me, right? Like, so
yeah, that's hairy.
Yeah, it was like, so he gave me 1,600, and I was like, yo, you couldn't tell me make that. He's like, no, that's all I did, and he did a double close. So if you don't know what a double close in real estate, that is basically, let's say there's me, Noah, and somebody else, and I'm the wholesaler, and I go to Noah and I say, I buy your house, I'll do everything great, and Noah says, cool. So I then go find another buyer or seller because I can't just assign a contract for whatever reason. So I got a double close. So I'm gonna, sign an agreement with the seller saying the other end buyer that I'm gonna, sell this house to them.
Right.
So the lender is going to take his funds. Of course, every lender is different, and sometimes there are transactional funds you can use. The lender is going to take his money. They're going to use it for your transaction, me and you. So I'm going to buy the house from you. I'm going to close using his funds, and then like a second later, that property is going to be sold directly from me to him. So in chain of title command, I'm going to be on there.
Yeah.
But I've only owned it for a second.
Right.
As soon as it sold to me, I sold it to him.
Yeah, and you're collecting the difference. Yeah.
Exactly. But the difference is if you do a traditional wholesale deal, you can see the final HUD and it'll show my assignment fee. If you do a double close, it'll only show. So say me, you and agreed at 130, it's only going to show 130 as a sales.
Okay. Okay.
And if I do for him, his HUD is going to say for, let's say, 170, 180, 200. Right. So you will never know how much I made.
Got it.
So I never was able to like be like, oh, proof. And I'm like, the deal was too good. Like as bad as this dude was female, but he was too good.
Right.
So, I learned from that. But like I said, I went through the wholesale deal. I went through the process of that. And then when I finally was able to start getting into flipping, bro, I was just like, yo, we're doing this. So that's where we are today.
All right. Very cool. That was the first thing that I ever learned too. Maybe even like one of the very first like real estate programs or just like business starting programs was wholesaling. And like I was so like overmatched and had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I was like 16, 17 and like was still playing baseball and was like, thought I was going to do this. And like, I think I made like 2 calls and was so like, I was just so like anxious about it and was like, I'm not going to do it. But pursuing that got me into like doing marketing for real estate and mortgage. And like, it's so interesting for me because they just talk about it all day long of just like investing. And now like who I work with now is like big into the fix and flip and like has experience doing it. So yeah, it's just something that I'm always super curious about. But yeah, I mean, so talk to me a little bit about like your personal relationship with money, because that's something that I'm very fascinated by. It's just like how people view money and how it affects the decisions they make and the essentially like the quality of life that they live and the experience of life that they're living. But like, talk to me about your relationship with money, how it was growing up and how it sort of developed and evolved over time as you have, your business has grown, your income has grown, you're involved in more real estate transactions. You see, the amount of money that's out there and like what's possible. Like where are you at with it right now? Like how's your relationship with money now?
Um, to be honest, I have a way better relationship. When I was
Yeah.
growing up, like I said, the environment I come from is get as much money as you can, be as rich, chains, gold teeth, all that.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm being honest, listen, I'm very
Yeah. Of
real,
course.
But now that I'm older, for me, bro, it's literally like you have to make money to live in our society. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it
It's
comes
inevitable.
to a territory you can't like. It's very hard to live a fun life.
Yeah.
But I always tell people like money should never come at the cost of your happiness, because I ask my friends a question. I'll say, if you had no money but you were completely happy, well, not that I say, if you're poor but you're completely happy, would you be okay? They're like, no, because I can never be happy being poor, and
Mm.
that's the wrong answer. Because think about it, if you're happy, you don't know you're poor. You're only poor by other people's standards, but by your own
Hmm.
standards, you're very wealthy. You feel me? Because you have happiness. Everybody equates money to happiness. And
Right.
even for the time I created, you make more money, you're more happy. You make more money,
Yeah.
you're more happy. And you see on Instagram all the time, what do people say? Oh, well, I'd rather cry in a Bentley than anything. You're saying that until you're in that Bentley and it's about to be repossessed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You feel me? So
Yeah.
it's like for me, where I am in my life right now, it's like while I am doing my money, it's mostly to give back. I want to show people opportunity. Like I want to open
Yeah.
communities. I want to be able to, go. I have a homeless men's group home out here in Decatur called Reach
Right.
Out Outreach Ministries. You feel me?
All
Like
right. Yeah.
I have things like for me, half the businesses I do is just to either see if I could do it or because I genuinely find it fun. Like it's not
Yeah,
like
dude.
I'm going in and saying I want to make a bunch of money. Is it cool to make more money? Yeah, I have certain goals. I want to hear like, oh, I want to make this amount of money. I want to make that.
Yeah.
But if it's just like I turn down business opportunities at least once a week, where people are like, we should do this because I know it's going to cost me my happiness, or it's going to cost me my time. Because yes, I can make more money and that's great, but
Hmm.
I want to be happy, bro. My goal is to be happy. If I could have it my way, I'm gonna be honest with you, like true transparency. If I could have it my way, I'd rather have a wife, some kids, be chill, everything's taken care of, and we go about our day. As long as I have that, I don't have it yet, but as long as I have that, I'm good. I
Yeah.
don't need everything else. Like I'm young now, so I have
Hmm.
like more than stuff. But
Yeah, you got time.
yeah, if it all came down to it, bro, I'll take that any day. This right here is stressful. You know?
I really like that. I really like that a lot. Yeah, I mean, again, it's my, it's a big part of my own, philosophy or just like motivation behind starting like this podcast and having these conversations was like, because it was something that I went through in my business partnership that I had in 2021. And I've talked about this on the podcast before, but like that was my first, and I think I even talked about it with you. Like that was
Yeah,
my first real experience with earning or having a business that was generating like revenue at a really high velocity. And
yeah.
it was like, wow, this is incredible. And this was like everything that I was working towards. And then 6 months into it, we got there and I was like, I don't I don't feel any better or different. And I'm almost always like, I'm almost disillusioned with like, what do I do now? Essentially, like I had wrapped up all of my goals around like making a certain amount of money. And then we were doing it. And I was like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And now, like, again, like a big part of last year was sort of like finding my balance, my equilibrium again after like things went sideways. And like my internal engine was like still wanting to earn that amount of money, but I was finding so much more fulfillment and satisfaction out of my work last year, making, less money. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, this is interesting. Like I'm operating at a smaller scale, but I'm very much now like I enjoy like my life so much. I have like a lot of control. Like I'm getting my outcomes that I want. And so it's just interesting that people, because again, so many people like start a business or get into business. And again, I don't like generalizations, but like that's the motivation, that's the mindset. And you and I started that way. Like that's just like what gets you
Yeah.
started. But I think when you start to see money as a tool and understand really what it is just like a medium of exchange of value, and you start to really get deeper into like the words that you use when you are describing money, I think that's like when, you start to just like unlock some of that relationship with it because there wasn't a lot of money for me growing up. It was apparent to me that like things were tight because, there was just the circumstances that we were in. So it is like I've like spent a lot of time just getting so deep into it and now reading a ton of, money books and getting so deep into it and trying to figure it out. Like I'm happy to have built my relationship with it and see it so differently. But like, I mean, it's just like to think that it is going to solve all your problems. Like money solves money problems. Right. Like I
Yeah.
love that quote.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Money doesn't really solve love problems. Money doesn't
No,
really solve emotional problems. It doesn't solve mental problems. Like
no,
it does mental problems that relate to money, but outside of that, it doesn't, bro. Because at the end of the day,
100%.
I mean, think about it. From a man's perspective, if you find a woman, a really good woman, she's not gonna like. Some women do care about finances and everything, but she's not really gonna care. She cares about you as a person. Like
Yeah.
you think,
You would
oh,
hope
yeah,
so, right? Like
yeah,
cares about me and my character. Yeah.
exactly. So like you
Yeah.
find you find the woman that's for you, and you're trying to impress her with all the money. She's like, I like you as a person. I mean, this is
Yeah.
cool. You know what I mean? And so you
Right.
start to understand that like
Hmm.
it's not necessarily like I remember I had a conversation. I'll go back. My last business partner, Julius was like, he was like, yo, let me ask something. You know, I was like, what's up? He was like, now that we made this amount of money, how do you feel? I was like, no different. Like I just want to know how to do it again. Like that was the thing. It's not like because like you just like you said, you think like you're gonna make this amount of money, you're gonna be like, oh my God, I'm
Yeah.
great, like this
Right.
great. I can go buy. It's
Yes.
like, no, how do I do this again? Like, how can I do this like 10 times again? Like, how can we keep
Right.
going? And so when I asked Gen Z and Aaron this, when like they made their first, I think it was like first 15,000 in a month, I
Yeah.
was like, how do you guys feel? It was like, no different. I was like, yeah. So, and this is from this side, you spend so much time chasing this feeling and it never
Right.
comes. So what you
No.
need to find is you're equating money to fulfillment.
Right.
And that's just not a good trend. That's not a
Right.
good version. And I feel like the majority of people do that. If I make this amount of money, I'll be this happy. That's not true.
Yeah.
You find fulfillment where you are. You find
Right.
fulfillment where you are. When you get money, it'll be enhanced.
Yes.
It won't be like, oh, I don't have money, because if money is your source of happiness, when money gets low, your happiness is low.
It's
When money
because
gets
it's
high,
gonna happen. Yeah.
yeah,
Fall
life
in love
kind
with the game. Yeah.
yeah.
Play the game, play the business game. 100%. Yeah, there was something interesting that you said last time we were talking again. This was something that like stayed in my mind. And it was a little bit almost kind of like a contrarian way of like how a lot of people think about this. And I have it down because I just wanted to make sure that like I understood it. But it was like so like a lot of like the old saying is sort of like forget about the destination and like, focus on the journey and like it'll take care of itself. And something that you said was like, I've gotten so focused on like just the journey that like I almost just like didn't know where I was going or like, like the destination. Like, and so you've been like, I'm thinking about like what my outcome is, like the destination more. Like that's what I'm thinking about. Can you just like speak to that a little bit? Because I thought it was just like so interesting the way that you were framing it, because it's not what most people think about when they think about that quote.
Yeah, so basically, I joined Iron Forums, and Iron Forums is a Christian men's forums for Christian men in business to be able to connect and go. And we were having our breakout session where everybody's talking and sharing and everything. And I just realized that I spent so much time focusing on the journey that I literally didn't think about the goal. So like for me, my goal was I want to be able to have kids. I want to be able to, make sure they're going to be provided for. I want to have a beautiful wife. I want to be able to have this. I want to have like this family stuff, like
Yeah.
nothing monetary, this family stuff.
Right.
And so I spent so much time getting so good at the journey, prepping for that, like, oh, can make this amount of money, do this, do that, do this, and that I completely shut out the goal. Like I shut out like dating women. I shut out the process. I was like, forget all that. Like I'm here. I'm not there yet. And when I finally got to Iron Forums and like I seen other men who were successful and they're doing their thing and I'm seeing they're married and everything, and I was like, it was kind of like a shock. Like, this is why I'm doing this. And like I'm further along than they are. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm hearing their numbers and I'm hearing my numbers.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm doing better than you
Yeah.
are.
Right.
And this dude is like super happy. And I'm asking myself, like, bro, I am genuinely not like I'm happy where I am. Don't get me wrong. I
Yeah, of
crap
course.
myself. But I'm not astounded at where I am where I'm like, yo, this is exactly what I wanted. Like I always feel like I have to do more. And I think it was because
Yeah.
I was doing this. I was just trying to focus, stay nose to the grindstone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it
Right.
was just like when I realized, I was like, you know what? I gotta take a step back. I need to put more emphasis on the reason I'm doing this. I need to go because I truly, my personal belief, everybody has their own. I truly believe a man would never reach his full potential until he finds a good woman. If you find a good woman, I know for me,
Amen, brother.
I used to tell myself back in high school, like when I was flipping phones, when I got in a relationship, bro, my level of focus, dedication, determination was like, I was like at 100, it was like 300.
Yeah,
like,
right.
it's like I said, 200% of this boost. So I realized like, you're doing really good, but you're not doing great. You feel me? And so I want to be great. You feel me? So it was like, okay, I gotta start, making my room for this. I gotta be more intentional with stuff like this. I have to open myself up more to this because I just shut myself off. Like,
Right.
I do this and something goes wrong. Because like we're all humans. We have emotions. So it's like if something goes wrong, it's gonna affect me and may affect my performance. And I don't have time for that. I need to focus. You know what I mean? So it's like, but then I realized, it's like I genuinely want this. This is the reason for doing it. So I start now putting more emphasis on my goal. And so if anything interferes with my goal, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
that's
I
kind of what I
love
do.
that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's just so valuable because, like, and again, that is such an interesting take on it from a lot of different perspectives because, like, that's just not what a lot of people hear. They're like, don't worry about your goals or burn your goals and just focus on the journey and sort of, I think, like, it's really important and like knowing what you want or asking yourself, like, what is it that I truly want is one of the hardest questions to answer. And it's not like you take half an hour and you go journal a little bit and you figure it out. Like, that's like, for me, at least, it's been years and years of continuously asking myself that and having like threads and ideas and just pulling the threads and getting a little bit deeper and then being like, well, that evolves as I continue to grow and evolve. And so I just think it's so important and necessary for somebody to define what you want, what your goal is, what success means specifically to you and only you, because it really only needs to make sense to you and like what that outcome is. Like, once you have that defined and it's down a bit, then you can just have total freedom of just letting go of either other people's expectations of what they project onto you of what it needs to be. And you can just let go and just go full in on just focusing on that. And you're like, now your decisions become, much more clear and intentional. You have real confidence in what you're making, and the answers that you're seeking start to show up a little bit more because you are actively pursuing a specific, like, I can see it in my mind if this is the life that I want to live. Like, I'm so on board with designing and envisioning the life that you want to live and that you build it first and then you like build yourself into that. Like, you don't just stumble upon success. Like, that's not an accident. Like, you defined it, you put it down, you spend a lot of time tweaking it. It's one of my favorite things to do. Like, I'm a planner. Like, I am a big, like, I don't have your gift of being like artistic and drawing, but like I have a real big imagination and I can like see that. And I enjoy going after it consistently. So yeah, I just think like it's one of one of my original books that I always loved was Seven Habits of Highly Successful People. Like, one of the habits of Stephen Covey was like, start with the end goal in mind, like have that
Mhm.
down. And again, that's not like you have it down and like it's not, it needs to be fluid. It needs to continue to change. It's going to continue to change. And it's not like the first thing that you put down is like, this is, in stone and nothing's that, this is like rigid now. And even if you don't have it clear, like that's okay. But I just think it's so important to have that down first, because then like it's almost just working backwards from there, like reverse engineering. Like, how do I then get to that? Like, if I want, let's say like the family and kids, like, well, I want to have the time to be able to, spend, actually
Yeah.
cultivating and building that. Okay, well, if I want to have the time to do it, then I need to be able to like build a business that gives me leverage to be able to do that. And then you find yourself
Yeah.
like, okay, if I want to do that, then I got to do, like, it's just, again, it's having the goal now and it's like trickling yourself down to like, okay, what are the things that I need to do here and now to ultimately get myself to this end goal that I have in mind, which I just think is so powerful.
No, facts. Literally, I mean, even if you bring it back to God, like that's kind of how God does us. God has a
Mm,
plan for our lives, and He has these things we can do, but you also
yeah.
have free will.
Right.
So we may go A, B, C back to A, B back to
Right.
B, C, D back to B. You feel me? And it's like you. Everybody has a plan till they're punched in the face.
Yep.
You feel me?
Mike Tyson,
So
baby.
yeah,
Yes.
right in the face. So you have your goal. As long as you know the goal, or there's a goal set at the end, the
Right.
plan. You make a plan, but understand the plan will create itself. So you make
Oh,
a plan
wow.
just so you have a roadmap, but as you go, the plan will make itself. Like if you would ask me
Hmm.
10 years ago, Anthony, what are you doing? I'll be a programmer right now. I have 10 years of programming experience. I'll
Yeah.
probably be a programmer and maybe, yeah, that's about it. Like a programmer and running a company. But it's like
Right.
now I don't really program. I'm doing all this stuff. I have all these different businesses and things I'm
Yeah.
doing. And
Right.
this is nothing like what it does. So if you have an end goal, it's a plan. So for me, my end goal was like bigger than myself. Like I want a family and stuff. It's also bigger
Mm.
than never have stuff for them. So for
Yes.
me, it motivates me. Like I tell my friends, even back in high school, like, yo, what motivates you? Bro, I want a family one day. Like,
Hmm.
you feel me? So it was like, it just always was so ingrained. So it's like everything I do is made for that. And then what made me change to building a team model was I realized like I'm stressed out, I have all this stuff, but if I keep going at the rate I'm going, I'm gonna be an absentee father. Like I'm
Hmm.
gonna be able to give money, but that's not what kids need. That's not what a family needs. They don't need
Right.
money. They need,
No.
like, it's cool to
Stage.
have.
They
but
see if you're there. Yeah, that's
they
it.
need you there. So it's just like certain things and realize like, oh,
Jeez.
I can't be the center of everything. I
Wow.
can't be the face. I can't be like the guy that has to take every business trip. Like I appreciate
Wow,
Brandon.
man.
Bro, like when we have conferences and stuff to go to, Brandon goes. I don't
Yeah.
go. You
Right.
feel me? Because it's like I don't even want to start that trend. I don't want to start that thing because I want
Sheesh.
to be there. Because like I said, at the end of the day, if it was up to me and I and all my stuff could be taken care of and I could have a family, I would much rather take that because
Yeah.
business.
Right. It's
You
an
know,
interesting perspective to almost go like you are doing your future self and your future family a disservice, like not
yeah,
elevating and growing and yeah, and like learning like you are costing your future self or family or whatever, like not learning how to grow and do that. Like that's a real new perspective that just kind of clicked.
yeah, man.
Sheesh.
You know, like you gotta prep, bro. You
Yeah.
plan for everything else, but you also gotta plan for them. Like, do you want to be there? It's honest. Do you want to
Yeah,
be there?
right.
'Cause some people, if you don't want to be there, bro, make your plan. I'm not here
Yeah, right.
to. I just know for me, I want it to be a very active. If there's a football game and there's a business meeting, we're going to the football game. If
Yeah.
there's this and this, I'm going to this. Like if it's my kid,
100%.
my daughter has a ballet recital, I'm going to the.
Right.
I'm sorry, like
That's
send
so
somebody
funny.
else. You know
That's
what I mean?
so funny. Yeah, you know what's interesting is like because like I'm thankful that like, I was able to have my dad and my mom, the woman that my dad ended up marrying is just the most amazing woman. She just completely saved our entire family. Like she's the glue. Like she just
Yeah.
completely kept us together. It was just, but it's funny, like I don't, reflect on like the job that like my parents had or like how much money they made. It's like they were at my baseball games, like that's what I think about. That's so funny.
Yeah.
All right, I want to wrap up with one last question. We touched on it a little bit, but this is how I always like to wrap these up a little bit with just how do you define the word wealth? What does wealth mean to you?
To me, wealth pretty much. That's actually a very good question. To me, wealth means like just being happy. Like I'm not gonna lie, like I don't feel like wealth can be defined by money, but for me, it's not necessarily fully defined by money. It's
It's
defined by
deeper,
like, am I genuinely happy?
right?
Because if I'm genuinely happy, I'm wealthy in the most important area of my life. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to be able, like I said, I just want to be able to provide for my family, do my stuff, run my stuff. I don't have one yet, but when I get one, so for me, wealth is just being able, if at the end of my life, and they're like, yo, he treated his family the best. He was always there. He showed up. He was always present with his family, whatever. I'm a wealthy man. I don't need, even if they're like, yo, he didn't have no money. I'm a wealthy man. You feel me?
Yeah,
Because that's where it genuinely counts. You feel me? So for me,
100%.
yeah, for me, wealth is happiness. Like as
Yeah,
long as I'm
dude.
happy, I'm happy in my life, I'm okay.
I
It's
love
not
it.
necessarily yeah,
Yeah,
like
it's
that's
just
just
it's always so like it's so much deeper than just like just like the money aspect of it, right? Like I think I'm very fascinated by the things that money can't buy, right? Like it's the three big ones is
yeah,
like a quiet mind, a healthy body, and like a happy household. Like
yeah.
money plays an aspect in those things, but like those things need to be earned consistently and they need to be cultivated, they need to be built with intention. So yeah, man, that's super powerful. I really appreciate that answer for sure.
No, I appreciate it, man. Like it's just everybody. I don't know. Everybody like being on this side, having been homeless and having stayed in penthouses and being in mansions and doing all this, you just come to realize that half the people who got all this money are literally like depressed.
Yeah.
And I don't want
Yeah.
to be like that. I want to be
Right.
happy. If I'm happy at the end of my life, and that's what it is, and I can genuinely say I had a great life, and I'm cool. I'm a wealthy man. I
Yeah,
don't,
right.
maybe not by your standards, but by my standards.
Which is really all that matters at the end of the day,
Yeah,
anyways.
yeah.
My goodness, dude. Again, thank you so much for your time, for being on, for going so deep into all these different topics. I mean, this was like a really, really valuable conversation. So, again,
Yeah.
anybody watching, listening, make sure you give us a like on YouTube. If you're listening on any of the podcast platforms, leave us a review. To all my builders out there, I salute you. Anthony, thank you again for your time. I greatly appreciate it. And I will see you guys all in the next episode.
See you guys later, guys. Appreciate you.